Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our backyard. In today's video, I'm going to go around our backyard and show you some of the new developments that have happened recently. Look at this Tithonia. And as those of you that grow the Mexican sunflower know, Tithonia rotundifolia gets to be very tall. And in fact, last year mine grew 7 to 8 feet tall. So I'm fully expecting this to be above the height of our fence. This is in full sun. And I purchased this last year from seed from Johnny's Seed Company. But these plants that you see here and blooms are from my plants last year that reseeded themselves. And so early this spring, I found 10 plants that were just healthy and gorgeous. And so I potted them up and waited until March to plant them in our new garden bed. And they are doing fantastic. The reason I grow this is for that bloom. This is a butterfly favorite. Some of you have told me that in your yard, hummingbirds also go to the Mexican sunflower. I've not seen in my yard hummingbirds go to it because they prefer so many other tubular shaped flowers, but I don't doubt that they do go to it, especially if they have not a lot of tubular flowers available. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful flower? Just the perfect type of flower for the butterflies to land on. I see all types of butterflies on this all throughout the day. I'm taping early, and so it's around 7 o'clock, so things are not in flight yet. That's when I typically do tape, because of the much better lighting. The next thing I would like to share with you is my brand new Stoke's Aster. This is my very first bloom, and I'm just so excited. Look at that. This is a Texas native, and you can see I have lots of buds on it. I am just so excited to see my Stoke's Aster start to bloom. This is another butterfly favorite and a native. So I'm super excited about this plant. The greater Houston metro area had a pretty bad storm recently, and straight line winds, lots of rain, and in fact still 500,000 customers are without power. It just was just a terrible storm for a lot of folks in my area. I got the downpours, but I did not get bad winds. I do see I need to stake up some parts here in my trellis area, and in particular my flame Acanthus. I need to stake up. I don't want to trim it up or cut it yet because it's going to be blooming within the next month. I can already see right here is the start to the little bloom stalks, and I don't want to cut these off because this is going to be blooming. So I am going to stake this up. But as I was surveying this, I have my first bloom of the season of my passion vine. Passion vine blooms are so unique, and this one is of my hybrid called Incense. And as you can see, this died back all to the ground, and it has grown a lot from mid-March when it was breaking dormancy until now. And I love that I've got my first bloom. My raspberry butterfly bush has been blooming non-stop, and the swallowtails in particular, especially the tiger swallowtails, that particular butterfly I've noticed loves butterfly bushes, the nectar. And it's fun to see those gorgeous butterflies on the butterfly bushes. But next to that is my new garden bed, and I just recently transplanted my little Joe Pye Weed. This broke dormancy, and I had this in a container. I've had it in a container. This will be its 3rd year, and it just never did great. It's come back every year. It's flowered every year, but it certainly gave me the signals that it wanted to be in the landscape. So I have a nice little area for it here, tucked in behind the Rose Marvel, Salvia nemorosa. And so I'm going to see how this little Joe Pye Weed responds to being planted in the landscape. This Joe Pye Weed gets very large. Little Joe Pye Weed does not. This is a dwarf variety, and it is also a fall bloomer. So I am going to see how this does, and if it does change its growing habit. My lantana is starting to bloom, and the butterflies are visiting the lantana. And I was so excited because I found at my favorite nursery, I found the mounding and sterile lantana, and I bought another one. And you can see it just grows in a gorgeous mound. I love the growing habit of this lantana. It comes back for me every year, and it's just beautiful in the butterfly garden. Hummingbirds really like it too. Back tucked away towards the fence, this is my south garden. I have a new plant to me. I just recently purchased this. Let me get a little closer. I'm excited to have this plant because it is the host plant to our yellow butterflies, our cloudless sulfur, the orange-balled sulfur, the little yellow sulfur butterflies. And this plant is called a Cassia Alata candlestick tree. It's a small ornamental tree with bright yellow blooms, and they grow like candlesticks. That's why this is called a candlestick tree. And it will grow 6 to 8 feet tall. I haven't decided if I am going to put this in the landscape or if I'm going to put it in a container. But this is a host plant, and I do see quite a few of the yellow butterflies in the yard because I do have a host plant currently. Let me go show you that. This is also a cassia. It's a lot of it died back during our winter freeze. It didn't die back as much the prior winter freeze, but you'll notice that these leaves are similar because the leaves do close up at night on the other plant that I got. And I thought, this one just hasn't really loved it here. It grows fine, it blooms fine. I just thought I was going to try another one. I've never seen orange butterflies or larvae on this, But then again, I don't extensively look at it. So I'm going to be cutting back because I don't think there is any growth in these branches. I have looked at them and I think they're done. And so I am going to cut this back. So I did want another Cassia plant. So I was really excited to get that one. I also wanted to give you an update on this gorgeous stand of bulbs that I purchased from Costco. These are long-filled garden bulbs. And these are 5 different caladiums that I planted. And look at what they're doing now. And I love, let me get a little closer. They are getting ready to bloom. Oh, so exciting. And they're growing so beautifully. Look at this. Ah. This is a Carolyn Wharton. This is the one that broke dormancy the latest, and it's trying to play catch up. Oh, they're beautiful. As I mentioned, I don't know if I'm going to plant them here again next year, but I did want to try this out. So far, I'm really happy with how they look. The next thing I want to share with you is I did show you just about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, the Pipevine swallowtail caterpillars absolutely, completely ate every single leaf off of my white vein Dutchman's Pipevine ground cover, which I absolutely am excited for because that's exactly what I want them to do. And we have had so many gorgeous Pipevine swallowtail butterflies in the yard, and some of them have just started to emerge, or the term for that is called eclosing. But I'm gonna look under here. Yep, got some more. So I've seen them diligently over here laying eggs, and thank goodness this ground cover can just be eaten to the ground and then pop right back up. I do have, as I mentioned, a vine. This is the Aristolochia tomentosa, and this is growing all the way up into my red tip tree. And when the ground cover was gone, we put the last few caterpillars on this to finish off their growth, which they did, and they munched on this because that's all that was left. And this is still growing, but for the last couple of years, the female butterflies have preferred to lay their eggs on the ground cover for me, and it's just really been fueling a lot of my Pipevine swallowtail caterpillars, and then which produces a lot of Pipevine swallowtail, gorgeous black and iridescent blue butterflies. So I'm real happy to see how quickly this grows back, and I wanted to share that with you. So back by my fence, I've put another couple of containers that I've just purchased because I wanted to protect them in our recent storm. But I don't have any pentas in my yard, and that is very unusual for me. And so at the nursery, I was able to get a couple of really beautiful pink pentas. These are a mainstay during the heat of summer for us. The butterflies love them, and they just don't even miss a beat. And this is this mounding lantana. I was so happy to see this because I don't see it all the time in the nursery. And lantana is such a beautiful grower for us, but I don't like how most of the habits grow. I so much prefer the mounding lantana, and this is Bloomify series. it is sterile, and so it doesn't set seed. It doesn't put any resources into producing seed at all. So what it does is it just flowers and flowers and flowers all year long until really the first frost. So you want to put lantana in full sun, 6 or more hours a day. And it says this gets 12 to 14 inches tall, but for us down in the south, you saw how it is in my garden, and it just grows beautifully. The habit is beautiful, but it definitely grows larger than that. Just to be aware. I shared a video recently on Turk's cap, and mine, I said, has just been starting to flower, and it has. It's been so pretty to see these cheery, bright flowers, and the hummingbirds and butterflies visiting my Turk's cap now, since it is just starting to come out and flower. So those of you that follow my channel know that I absolutely love my native coral honeysuckle vine. And I'm going to put up at the top a link to the video on that, because it is a native and it just sustains so much life in the garden. Although if you follow my channel, you also know that I broke fingers and I've virtually been one-handed, and so gardening takes me, the tasks take so much longer, and it's been frustrating, slow go of it, but we all have things that we have to deal with, don't we? And so the reason I say that is because I have had this beautiful coral honeysuckle that I have not planted out yet. So around the corner I have planted it in the ground, but on this side I have shared with you that we have very poor drainage, and so there are times where this can be underwater for days. And so depending on how much rain we get, this past storm we've gotten over 2 inches, and so it just doesn't drain well. So what I have on this side is I have my coral honeysuckle in containers. And so I saw this gorgeous one at my favorite nursery, and I wanted to pick it up this spring. Well, I want to put this in a container, and you can see it's already starting to grow up the trellis, but I wanted a bottomless container. So let me explain. Currently, the 2 containers that I have here are on concrete slabs or pavers, and they will not, their roots cannot grow into the ground. One of the reasons is because the roots can fill the drain holes, and then you can have drainage issues. So if you watch the Impatient Gardener's channel, she talked about this spring beautiful clematis that she had, and she had them planted in square wooden planters that were beautiful, but she needed to repot them, and she had a very difficult time repotting them because of how the roots were grown into the bottom. Anyway, what she had mentioned is she had mentioned creating containers or having containers where you cut the hole out of the bottom. So my husband and I have been looking to do that. There is a gardener in England that does this, and she grinds the bottoms out. And so we were looking for the right container to try this out on. And so my husband this week did this, and you can see we have ground out the bottom of this. It's a modified type concrete container. It's brand new, and we wanted to try this out. And so we've got the bottom cut out where the roots will be able to grow down into the ground. So that new container is going right here on this trellis. And I am so excited for that because now the root structure will be able to go into the ground. I mentioned I do have on this side my coral honeysuckle planted directly into the ground. Love it, and it does beautifully. Drainage issue over here. It does not drain well. Heavy clay soil, tons of rain can have this area underwater, sometimes for more than a week at a time. I don't want to drown out the crowns of the plants. I want the coral honeysuckle on this side. I don't want to move it. It's perfect where it is in my garden. So that was a solution that we were looking to implement. And I'm so excited because I think we're going to be able to do that. And my husband is going to help me this weekend. And so that container that we just drilled out is going to go here. The root ball will be above ground, so it's not going to have an issue with getting flooded out. But then roots can grow down into the soil. And so it's like win-win. Whereas these containers, I'm going to have to repot them, cut them down. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. But now it'll be an issue next year because these containers are going to need to be addressed. Whereas the bottomless container, I should not have to do anything from here on out. So I'm really excited to try this out. If any of you have done that, I'm really curious to your thoughts and if you've had any successes. And finally, I'd like to share with you that I purchased and found new caladiums that I absolutely love, a specific type, and I'll share in a second, for my shade garden container. I had a caladium back there that I absolutely loved. It was probably my favorite, and it certainly has come back a little, but I need to replace that because most of it died out during our winter. So at my favorite nursery, I found these caladiums. Aren't they gorgeous? And the reason I like caladiums is because they do so well for us down here in the hot and humid south along the Texas Gulf Coast. So caladiums and coleus do wonderfully in a shade garden. And so for me, this is like the heuchera and hostas Midwest and up north that do so well. Those plants don't do well for us down here in the south in the heat of the summer. And so this is of the Heart to Heart series. I love this series from Proven Winners of Caladium. This one is called Bottle Rocket, and it's sun tolerant. Last year's caladium was not. It was a shade caladium. And so these are supposed to get 18 to 24 inches tall. I am so happy to have these. So these new caladiums, called Bottle Rocket, are going to go in that container and just have another gorgeous pop in my shade garden landscape. So thanks for joining me today. That was a little bit longer than I was anticipating. For all you Houston area gardeners, I wish you well, and I hope you didn't get any damage in our recent awful storm. But I hope you all have a great week, a great day, and I hope to see you again soon.